the 7th of September 2016. We have a light agenda today, but first of all, we're going to do a quick stand-up of everyone that's here, starting with Anna.
Hi. Yeah, basically just the usual looking at issues and PRs. Yeah, that's it for me. Next would be Bradley.
Hi. So mostly just been talking with people about various things with modules, just kind of back and forth about individuals emailing me about workflows that we won't support, and trying to find solutions for them. So that's it.
Next is Nikita.
Just some private ecosystem things, nothing significant. Next is Chris or Ion.
Yeah, I opened a PR for adding back the Harmony Proxies flag. We're going to be talking about that today, I believe, but that not much else. Next is Jeremiah.
I've been working on getting v6.6.0 out the door. There's a bunch of conflicts there, so I haven't made too much progress on it yet. Also some miscellaneous issue and PR review. I've reviewed async wrap as the EPs evolved a little bit, making sure everything there is solid. And I've also been working on some timers pull requests. The next is Tracy. If Tracy's here, I don't think so. So the next would be Fedor. Fedor put his thing in. Is he not in the call? Okay. Josh.
Sorry, finally on mute. Just issues and PRs that I was involved with. Next is Michael Dawson.
I spent some time investigating and submitting some PRs, landing them to move AX towards green in the CI. Working on migrating our PPC machines to the new set. Working on adding Linux 1 to the nightly builds. Moved the ABI stable work from private repo into repos under Node.js, and still some work on my presentations for Node Interactive EU. Next is Julian.
I've been mainly reviewing timers pull requests. And next is Ali.
I think next is Brian.
I don't think Brian is here.
Okay. So I've been mainly working on getting some backports in place for V8 for 5.1 and 5.4. Also starting to look at the performance of the new ignition interpreter in V8. Next is RBAG.
Yes, lots of fun with the Raspberry Pi cluster with some hardware problems back and forth. But we think we've sorted that out for now, even though there's some persistent problems with one of the machines that we're relying on for NFS. But if any problems come up with Raspberry Pis, please ping me in IRC, because yeah, we may have more things to solve. Next, Seth Thompson.
Hey everyone. Let's see. So as Ollie mentioned, the V8 team is heads down working on the ignition interpreter, which initially is mainly in place to deliver memory improvements, but over the long run should help with startup as well and simplifying our architecture. And the DevTools team is working hard on the V8 inspector migration still, and getting closer to landing it in V8 proper. And next up is Stephen Loomis.
Okay, so not a lot, just trying to keep an eye on issues and pull requests. Just responded to another one that I was able to close with, that was just a data issue, 8433. Okay, so who is next? I'm just loading the page.
Miles.
Hello, everyone. So I'm just catching up back from vacation. Been auditing commits for 4.x, starting to get stuff back into staging. Working on modifying the output of the test runner. Right now, we only have part of the output in YAMLish, and some of it's in comments, and this is blocking the adoption of a new CI job that we talked about for JUnit instead of TAP. Preparing for interactive EU, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. Next up, we have Trevor. And
Yep. So async wrap, or now async hook, I pretty much completed it and was doing benchmarking and testing and realized it failed the performance goals I had set. And so I'm doing a slight rewrite of the embedders API. I've updated the EP, and that's up, and I'll continue working on that. Last is Rich.
Hi, I backported a few small commits for V4X. I've been updating the build and onboarding docs based on some contributor mentoring and onboarding activities, and I submitted a few test PRs designed to increase test coverage, and I believe that completes our stand-up.
It does. And moving into the meeting proper, the first item is actually is the determining supported build platforms, and I've suggested that we skip this one this week. The build working group has a meeting on the 27th, so that's a couple of meetings for us from now. I've removed the CTC agenda item from this issue, and it'll come back when the build working group has completed something that it's happy with. So we have then 2 items on the agenda, which I'll update. Oh, it's already been done. So previous meeting. Good on you, Rich. I presume that was you doing that. Previous meeting, we looked at the build platforms, which I just mentioned. The child process stuff for auto run, which has gone back to GitHub. But there was a bit of negativity about that one. What was the end on that one?
It's in GitHub. We checked with the console team, and after reflecting on Joel's concerns that modules can't be easily edited, they recommended also that we add /d by default. It's in that issue now.
Yep. Okay. Okay, there's some good comments in there. Undeprecate exists sync. There was stuff there for the sync call of that. But nobody was going to, nobody really wanted to champion that one. Negativity amongst the CTC group. But again, if there's anybody here new that wasn't in that discussion that really feels strongly that we should have an exist sync or something similar, please go into that issue. It needs a champion because we don't have one except for external people. Google Analytics tracking, after much delay, we decided to merge that one. Introduce staging branch for release streams. Decided to move ahead as proposed. Ecosystem detection tool for Node.js org, which was the one that Nikita started. So there was a discussion about prepping the repo and moving it in, and opening an issue on the TSC to make sure that that's okay to move forward with. And lastly, async wrap public API proposal. That's back again for voting this week, but we'll get there in a minute. So just 2 items on the agenda. The first one is issue number 3595, which is this failure from the upgrade of V8 in version 6.5.0. No Harmony proxies flag. So who put this on the agenda? Who wants to lead this one?
Yeah, that was me. So what happened is we updated V8 in v6.5 in a major V8 bump. That removed a few of the command line flags, notably some of the Harmony flags that are experimental features that are enabled by these flags. And they were removed, and that means that basically they are throwing errors now when being used, as opposed to what they were doing before. v6.5. And yeah, like Evan said, he opened a PR that added a no up for one of those flags, so just that they are ignored. And because that particular feature Harmony proxies, that is already available since v6 started. And yeah, there was quite a bit of resistance to doing that, because it would mean basically saying that it was read as saying that we apply Semver principles to experimental features. Yeah, I don't know who had a look at this issue. I think a lot of us here did. But like, I would just ask: does anybody really have concrete points why we shouldn't do that? Why we shouldn't support just no upping these flags and saying, yeah, we ignored them, but at least that doesn't break anybody's code.
For clarity, we're talking about no opping them until the next Semver major release, and then we pull that out, or we could pull that out.
Yes.
I don't think the patch would ever land on master. It would be landed against v6 only, so there would be no removing of it.
Yeah, at least Evan made his PR against v6.
Yeah, I think people, or some people had problem with the PR because it was in Node and it wasn't like a floating patch on V8. I don't know. I feel like people feel pretty differently about it though.
Well, is there any chance it could be floated on V8? I mean, the V8 would do it.
It would be very trivial for these to be added back. But thing is, it's this is 5.1, so we'll have to float it on our copy of V8. V8 is abandoned, like that branch is abandoned upstream.
But
And
I
it's
thought
going to be a very
abandoned
simple
branches.
patch.
I can't remember the specifics, but I swear somebody came in and said abandoned branches would be open for like our usage, basically.
That's pretty much the case. We manage the V8 version. We bump the V8 version whenever we put a patch there. So it's up to us whether or not we want to add back these no-ops.
Well,
and for all these flags, does that mean that the features that they were implementing are still present just by default, or have some of them been removed?
So I think we're talking specifically about the Harmony flags that were no-ops. So in other words, V8 had implemented shift support by default for these,
okay,
but they hadn't removed the flag yet, and V8
okay.
5.1 removed them.
All right.
So those are the ones we're talking about.
There were a handful of other flags that were removed as well, correct? And I think you had a list of them.
Yeah, I posted them. I can post that in the chat here. But like, I think we're basically talking only about the Harmony flags because that's what people actually use. And I must say, I have never heard of any of the other flags or seen them in the wild or basically anything.
So we have the long-standing policy that we do not change V8 behavior, and my opinion is that these no-op Harmony flags, I mean, we should add the no-ops back because we aren't really changing behavior, and we're avoiding some hardship in the ecosystem. So that's why I'm supportive of adding back these no-ops. But for the remaining flags that actually are V8 behavior, I do not think we should change our default policy of not changing that behavior.
What about the strong mode flags? I can imagine there might be someone out there that might use strong mode.
So even the Harmony flags, you can argue that I think it's fair game that the flag got removed, but I think enough people use Harmony flags and it will be a very simple thing to do. But strong mode, I think you are way off the radar if using strong mode and expecting that it will work even within a patch level.
Okay.
What about
so
Sorry, go for it, Rod.
I was just wondering, so Ali, are you saying that you're supporting adding the Harmony flags only and not the other ones?
Correct. The no-op, the ones that were no-ops, I think it would be good if we added those back as no-ops.
Can we maybe mention which ones are no-ops in that comment that Anna posted? Just in front of them. or maybe like separate them into different groups?
So my suspicion is all the Harmony flags that got removed in this release 5.1 were NOPs, but I actually need to go put together a patch to put them back, and I can find the definitive answer when I go do that.
All right.
Yeah,
I have
and
a
I mean,
question.
we can adopt a new policy here if we want, which is like we don't have to stick to the existing policy if we think there's a better option, which is maybe to say that when we upgrade V8, there are some flags which may disappear or change, and you have to do feature detection somehow on that if you really care about those flags.
Yeah, that's what some people want, if I'm reading the comments in the thread right. But like, it's still not what people would expect for us to do, even in a December minor version bump.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there are some of these flags, like if you look at them, like trace wasm AST, some of these flags that are very unlikely to be used in real code. But there are others where you can imagine them being used in production code by some people, as were used by generators in 0.11 when everyone was using them. So the ones that are obviously potentially usable in production code, then sure. But the ones that are, ASM.js wasm dump file. Let's be a bit realistic here.
What about taking the path least resistance and instead of debating what flags might and might not be used, just re-add the no ops, so that's easy, and then see if anybody comes back and complains about the others. I highly doubt they will, but now it feels more pure, quote unquote, to me if it were backported in V8, but I also don't see any reason why floating it in Node should give anybody an issue.
Maybe one thing worth mentioning is that Ben said he was strongly -1 on floating a patch on V8. I don't know, he gave no reason. He isn't there today.
I think that depends what we mean by floating a patch. Like if it's integrated into a V8 branch, then I think it should be fine.
And I think once he sees the actual change, maybe he'll have a different opinion.
Oh heck, we don't technically we don't even have to float this on V8. If we just intercepted these when we're parsing before it goes to V8 and no-op it, that'd be ugly, but I mean we could.
We could do that, but it's a lot harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Because V8 has an option parser that allows for options to have like underscore or dash in any of the underscores or dashes, etc.
Yeah, we need to pull something like that.
So we should just work on all unsupported flags in the next major for this not to happen again. I mean on all flags, but the whitelisted ones. Especially on Harmony flags. They are often misused.
So we don't have representation here of a couple of negatives. So Colin and Ben had negative positions at least. Is the proposal here to move forward with a PR in some form from Ali, whether it be on V8 or Node, and then come back to this, or like, what is the request here for agreement or discussion?
Yeah, I'm not actually expecting a definite decision on something, but like, yeah, I was actually hoping to hear something from the people who were -1 on doing any changes. But like, yeah, I would definitely be happy if someone put together a PR on Node or V8 with all the flags we want to know up, and have discussion on that in the next meeting or so if that's necessary.
Ollie, how long would it take to get a proper patch onto the V8 branch itself?
It shouldn't take long. It's primarily dependent on me being able to find half an hour free somewhere.
Okay, I mean if this is
So
holding
I'll try
for
to do it
release,
today.
Thanks. All right. So let's just bring in the V8 branch after that. We're good, right?
It doesn't even need, I mean, this is going to be a patch we're floating on our copy of V8. It's not going to be submitted upstream. So that's how, because V8 5.1 is no longer maintained upstream. We are the de facto owners of the V8 5.1 branch from here onwards.
Ah, okay.
Okay, well let's do this then. Open that PR and move discussion to that new PR. And if those people with negatives can expand on their negatives in there, then that's fine. We can have discussion there. Otherwise, maybe it'll get through. And then we'll keep it on the agenda for next week. And if it needs to be discussed, we'll do that there.
Works for me.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on then. Async Wrap Public API proposal. Trevor, let's get this closed out sometime. How are we going?
The EP, I'd say, after all the implementation I've gone through, I'd say the EP is dang near 100% ready. The only thing I could see conceivably changing slightly is the native C++ embedder API. But after doing a crap ton of implementation and testing and re-implementation, it's down to where it needs to be in order to achieve all the functionality and performance goals that were set for it. And I'm really close to finishing up the full implementation for it, which I will PR in a day or two.
So we need to sign off on the EP. Can we? We're not in a position to do that today, are we?
No, but the EP is. I can confidently say, unless somebody has some horrible issue with it, as far as what it needs to achieve, the EP is there. And
okay.
I've updated it with a bunch more code examples and stuff like that, so it should be a lot easier to understand what's going on.
Is there going to be any flux between now and next meeting for pull request 18 on EPS?
No, should be at least unless people start commenting and it starts changing because of those comments. I don't foresee any changes to the EP between now and next week.
Okay, so
I have one question. I'm just reading the update in Better API. Like I haven't had time to make a comment on it yet. That I could conceivably see. And that's it. When this async event store object that you pass around with the embedder API, would it be better to just attach the event ID on it? So you just need to pass the storage
because
object?
it needs to be you need the option for that to be null. You kill performance as soon as you have to create even one additional object. Storing the primitive, grabbing the new ID and returning a primitive of a number and allowing them to store that is a simple operation. And then if there are no hooks to execute, the following call just returns null. It doesn't create a new object. So you can't attach the ID to it if that's the case.
Okay, one question. If you call, one second. If you call, what's the method? Emit.
Init or emit
if you
before.
call emit before with any number and null, it won't emit.
Yes,
Is that correct?
It will.
Okay.
Because there is the API of current ID, which allows you to grab the current execution ID, async execution ID, at any given point in your application. So it will need to clear out all existing hooks. Say, for example, you have an async call within an async call, which happens on occasion. You need to be able to throw all existing hooks to be executed onto a stack, clear it, and then throw the new ID on there.
I'd like to move that this particular detail go into the GitHub repo.
Oops, sorry.
Okay, so action item here.
If it's cleared up and there's no bother about it, then there's not really any changes to be made though. So
yeah.
Okay, well, you two can discuss if there's anything more to discuss there. So action item for next week is to come back and vote on the EP. So it's ready now.
So everyone should read it.
Everyone should read it so that when we vote on it, you're actually voting on something you've read.
And
the second one is that we should have a pull request into Node Core sometime in the next few days.
Yes.
That possibly won't come back onto this meeting, but it'll be something to keep an eye out on.
No,
and,
it won't.
reviewing.
It won't have all the docs. Bradley was kind enough to volunteer to write the proper set of docs, and then I'll also need to finish up tests. But with between the EP and the implementation, people can at least start using it and getting a feel for it to see if there's anything they'd like changed.
Okay, and then beyond that, there will be questions about backporting some of these things to V4. That will be an interesting discussion because we have been doing that, but I think there might be some resistance now from recent discussions. But that can come later. Okay. Any other questions? Sorry.
Positive side note is, while it's still slow, further discussion is continuing on the promise side. I'm actually writing a comment back right at this very moment.
And that was because we don't have access into the microtask queue, but we are making progress there.
Yeah, and actually, as I was writing this, I realized not everything, most of the stuff we had discussed about what we actually need is wrong, which I will write up somewhere else and share with everyone. But
okay, that's probably a separate issue then, since
yeah.
it's an enhancement to this.
But it's proceeding. It's improving. Great. Whatever.
That's good news. Okay. Any other questions about async wrap before we move on?
Just wanted to underscore something which I think Ollie mentioned on the thread, which was that the V8 team is definitely interested in working on this, and if the issue isn't going anywhere, it's not for lack of conversations happening elsewhere and off thread, and it looks like async await will definitely not make the cut for 7.x. So unfortunately, which is unfortunate on the one hand, but on the other hand, I think it gives us a little bit more time to work through the right thing here.
That's great news. Thanks for that. Any other comments, questions on async wrap? Okay, moving on to QA on public channels. So if you're listening to the live stream and you've got a question or a comment you'd like to feed into this meeting, please drop it in the YouTube comments or in IRC in the Node Dev channel, or even in the issue thread for this meeting. So we'll give it a couple of minutes while we wait for people to catch up on this stream. Do we have anything in the YouTube stream, Jeremiah?
We do not. There are 8 viewers, but there are no questions so far.
Okay, well, thank you, 8 viewers, for viewing anyway. We hope this was informative for you. Upcoming meetings. We've got a meeting next week for the CTC. TSC is coming up tomorrow. TSC members, please see the agenda that's already posted for that in the TSC repo. Benchmarking working group. There's an issue there, issue number 56 in the benchmarking repo, so it doesn't have a date. Build working group is on the 20th, and we should have the platforms thing by then to come back to the CTC meeting that week, I would hope. And that's all the meetings we have listed. So is there anything else anyone would like to drop in this public section?
I can drop something. There were several concerns about the rewritten EP for modules, and I just want to reiterate, we haven't merged that PR yet, and you're still free to discuss things if you want to ask questions or have concerns. You can put it in GitHub publicly or even email me privately, and I'll try to route the questions as best I can. This is Bradley Fadius, by the way.
So I've been getting a lot of questions about modules. It seems that people are still extremely interested in it and are having difficulty grokking the details. There's even questions that came up during QA during the Node Foundation board meeting about modules. So if you're listening to this and you have questions, I encourage you to get in touch with Bradley. He's very interested in having discussions with people that have concerns or questions.
Someone has commented on the YouTube chat. Thanks for the heads up on async await and Node v7.
Okay, let's close out the this public section of the meeting. Thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks everyone for tuning in elsewhere.